First of all, welcome to What's New in Product Design and Manufacturing Collection webinar. We appreciate you taking the time today to review the new tools available with the 2019 Autodesk software. So this webinar will last approximately an hour, and the purpose of the webinar will be to really familiarize everyone with the tools available in the Product Design and Manufacturing Collection, along with looking at some of our 2019 software improvements. So our agenda, first of all, I probably should introduce myself. My name is Scott Dibben. I'm Director of Core Services with D3 Technologies. We'll also have 3 technicians that will walk through some of the software, and we'll introduce each of them at their segment. So the agenda for this morning will be to review the Product Design and Manufacturing Collection software. Then we'll look at what's new for some of our products. With there being so many products in the collection, we won't be reviewing the what's new on each product, but most of our main products. The third bullet we'll be looking at is introductions to our Evolve program, which is a training program we have rolled out in the last year. And then the final thing we'll wrap up with is our CAD Live technology that D3 utilizes to deliver our training today. So let's go ahead and jump in. So I wanted to start off with some facts for the Product Design and Manufacturing Collection. So the first fact is this is one of 3 collections currently being offered by Autodesk. We have the Product Design and Manufacturing Collection. We also have the Architectural, Engineering, and Construction Collection, and of course the Media and Entertainment Collection. So there's 3 different ones, very specific to their industry. And when we say collection, it is really a collection of software bundled together. So in the Product Design and Manufacturing Collection, currently we have more than 17 products included. That's far above any of the suites that we've seen previous. And we expect that we're going to probably see those products increase and grow over time. Also, the Product Design and Manufacturing Collection is available as a single user or multi-user, just like what we're used to in our perpetual licenses. So there's not really a big change in that. And please be aware that some of the products are only available through the collections. Some of what we'll be showing today will only be available through the collection. So if you see something that's of interest to you and you still have one of the product design suites, it may be worth looking at moving up to one of the collections. Okay, so I want to jump in and review the current products that are inside of our Product Design and Manufacturing Collection. A lot of people may not be aware of all the products that they currently have available. So the first product everybody's probably used to seeing is Autodesk Inventor. That is our 3D mechanical design and documentation along with simulation software. We have Autodesk HSM, which is an integrated 2.5 to 5 axis cam for Inventor, or it could also be used on SolidWorks. We have Nastran NCAD, which is a CAD integrated FEA tool for engineers or analysts. We have the Autodesk Nesting Utility, which is nesting software for Inventor for optimizing yield from flat patterns. We have the Autodesk Factory Design Utilities, which is for 2D and 3D factory layouts. We have Fusion 360, which is a 3D CAM, CAD, and simulation software that is cloud-based. We have Autodesk Recap Pro, which is reality capture and 3D scanning software. We have AutoCAD, which everybody is probably aware of, which is a 2D and 3D CAD software. In the collections is also AutoCAD Mechanical, which is for mechanical engineering design documentation. We have AutoCAD MEP, which is for drafting, design, and documentation of building systems. We have AutoCAD Architectural, which is for drafting and design of architectural and construction. We have AutoCAD Electrical, which is for design of controls and electrical systems. We have Plant 3D, which is for design and documentation of P&ID and process plants. We have Map 3D, which is AutoCAD with GIS and mapping tool sets. We have Navisworks, which is for pulling design data in for project coordination. 3ds Max, which is for professional quality 3D animations and renderings. And then to round that out, we have, of course, our Autodesk Vault Basic, which is for design and documentation management system. So as you can see through the collections, many more products is offered than what was in any of our suites or individual products. Once again, a lot of tools. When we get to talking about training a little bit later, you'll figure out why I believe it's so important to have a training program for these. So the 4 that you see right now with the boxes around them, those are new products that are introduced into the 2019 product. We have nesting, which we'll be showcasing today. AutoCAD MEP, which was not, of course, in our manufacturing collection. We Plant 3D, which we have quite a focus on at D3 here. We're glad to see that as part of the product design and manufacturing collection. Also, we now have, of course, Map 3D inside. So 4 products that's been added. So we are going to jump into our what's new. The layout for what we're going to do on what's new, the first thing that we will jump into will be Inventor what's new. The second one will be factory design along with AutoCAD. The third product that we'll be looking at will be Fusion 360, and we'll round that out with 3ds Max. With that, I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to make presenter of Dan. Dan is going to talk about a couple things inside of Inventor for 2019, which improvements on iLogic and the nesting utility. Let me go ahead and make Dan presenter.
All right, thank you, Scott. Let me know if you can hear me and see my screen there.
Yes.
All right, awesome. All right, so good morning. My name is Dan Hunsucker. I'm actually out of our Kansas City office. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the nesting utility and kind of show you some of the improvements they did with iLogic. And to start off, I want to start with the nesting side of it. So if you have the collection, you have nesting available to you. So nesting is a great utility for sheet metal assemblies or sheet metal parts. And the key thing there is it has to be a sheet metal part. It has to have a flat pattern for nesting to work. So I've built this simple assembly that's just kind of built 1, 2, 3 parts here. And there's a couple of flat plates in here. Even if they're flat plates, they still have to have flat patterns in there. So as we look at this, if we realize, hey, I need to burn all these parts in there, old school, we had to have nesting software, or we just basically get all of our flat patterns, go to AutoCAD, put them all together, mix and match them as we need to. With the nesting of it, inside the assembly, I can just come in here and say, I want to create a nest. I'm just going to use the default template in here. And it's going to take a look at my assembly and say, okay, here's what I found out there. Here's all the parts that had flat patterns to them. I see that there's 2 materials, there's 2 different thicknesses in there. So that's okay. Shows me everything where it found it, brings it in, and then it's going to show me the 4 parts that it found. So I brought in the flat patterns for all these. So flatten each one of these out, and these 2 are just flat plates. So it shows me the information here. Yep, those are the parts that I need. Now, the nesting properties are going to come in here and tell me, well, here's what I found. You need 1 of these, 1 of these, 1 of these, 2 of these. You can change these. So if I know they always lose a couple of the discs, I can come in here and say, well, let's go ahead and make 4. For every assembly, I want to make a couple extra ones in there. You can also set these up. You can see the thicknesses. And you can also allow it to flip the part, rotate it 90, 180, 270. So these are just allowing you to let it rotate parts for you. So if we accept that, it comes back out here and shows same thing. Now, as we build this, if I go to create, it's going to come and say, okay, well, let's create a study. How many are we going to create? So if I'm going to build 5 of these assemblies, I'm going to come up here for the job quantity and say 5. You can change stack size, so that way if you're stacking plates on top of each other, we can use those. I'll keep that at 1, and I'm just going to hit OK so you can see it up front. And what you'll see is it down below creates and says, okay, to create 5 of these, it came out here and said, well, here's a couple of these, here's the other material thickness in there. Now, it shows me how it fitted in here, so at 21.2, 19, and it also came out and said, well, I'm using a 24 by 24 blank. So that is controllable. Right now, I left the default at 24 by 24 in here for it to use. And yeah, I got a lot of wasted space on these guys in here. Or if I realize, hey, I've got 24 by 48 plates that I can use in here, we can come out there and we can actually just say, well, let's change it. So for packaging 2, I can control my size here. Give them both the same size here. And sorry about my resolution there, but once I get this, I'll come out here and I'll just rerun this. It's going to update it. So we can kind of see that, yeah, it's about a 33-inch plate blank that we could use that would fit these guys. This one, a little bit better in there. So you can kind of control which way it creates them, but you can still see I got one left over here. Now, the nice part about this, if I realize, yeah, I've got some other parts that are the same thickness that I do want to go ahead and try to put in here, why not? We can go back to our sources and say, well, I just want to add, I know I've got this clip that I want to add to my assembly. It's not really added to the assembly, but I know if I can burn it at the same time, great. Which it looks like that. So that way I can go into my properties and say, well, I need, say, 10 of these in there. So if I add that into it, I'm going to create another nesting study. So it's not going to override it. It's going to create another one. So again, I want 5. We'll hit OK. And it's going to go ahead and create another one. You'll see nothing changed here, but as it creates it, it just drops a new one down here. So same scenario here, but since I told it I wanted 10 and I said 5, we're going to have 50 of those plates. So you can kind of see that it recreated this and said, okay, well, I'll fit all these in here, and actually it looks like a nice setup in there. So that kind of using a lot of my space. There's still some that I could probably sneak some other stuff in there, but that's where it's nice that, yeah, I started from the assembly, but you can also add extra parts in there if you know they're the same material, same thickness, and so forth. So from this information, we can come out here and say, well, I like this sheet 10 here. I want to look at it first. What can we do with it? Well, we can export it. So I can take this and throw it out to a DXF file. So if I need to send it out of house or someone else needs a DXF, great, here it is. Great thing about collection is this create 3D model. It actually starts a brand new part file, brings that sheet in. You'll see it here in a second. Oh, there it goes. It creates a part that has the blank plate in there. And this is great if you're using HSM. So I can go out here and actually create the G code to burn this straight from that part. So that way we start from the assembly, we created the nesting from there, and the nesting is its own file now. So it export or imported all those parts. If they update, we can get them to update here. It's the update side of it, but we can take this out to however we need to. So that way, if I wanted to use HSM, I've got my part set up. I can create the tooling, the paths, and so forth from here. So it is a great tool that if you're doing nesting, simple side of stuff, yeah, it allows you to create all this layout in there. So I've seen a lot of this stuff out there, and I'm pretty excited about what they've added to it in there. So hopefully you guys are too. And then second topic here is I wanted to talk about what's new in iLogic. With iLogic, it's one of those in the past, if you're doing iLogic with an assembly and you're wanting to swap a part for another part, you could use your level of detail, but everything had to be in the assembly. Everything had to exist in the assembly. You were just suppressing a part, unsuppressing a part, suppressing constraints, unsuppressing constraints, and so forth. So it worked, but if someone messed with your assembly and changed your level of detail, then the iLogic wouldn't work, and then you'd have to fight all that and so forth. What they've added in 2019 that is pretty awesome is the ability to add and remove parts without them already being in the assembly. And in this example, just changing my disk layout here, so changing it to a knob. What it's doing is, I'll do it a couple times here. You'll notice it has the back, the D, the 3, and then it has the two new parts. There's a bolt on the back. Didn't mean to close that, but if I change that back to disk, it swapped them out, so we still have those 3 original parts. Then we have 2 disks and 2 washers that are in the middle and there. So it's actually removing those parts, adding new parts in there. So as I switch back and forth, you can kind of see those. Say they jump through there, so forth. So, and you'll notice they do have constraints. They're not just sitting out there. So they have constraints underneath them. Now, what they did with iLogic, I'm not going to throw a bunch of code at you here. Just want you to see in here is they added new code in here. So that way you see there's component add, label your commands or your components. And there's also components delete, got rid of the other two and so forth. But the key thing here too is I didn't show you is there's constraints. You can add constraints in your code too. So that allows you to come out and say, well, add this constraint. If the part disappears, the constraint disappears. So that for each state, I just add components, add constraints, remove components. Add components, add constraints, remove components. So it makes it an easier to combine configuration of your assemblies in there. So this is one that I was super excited about in here. But the other one, just kind of the visual feedback in here. I always like when you're changing code, this little highlight over here. So if I just even hit enter, and here it shows that little yellow bar, let me know that I've changed something in here. It also allows you to autocomplete. So if I just start typing something, you can have these autocomplete dialog boxes pop up to help you out as you're typing in here. It makes things so much easier as you're typing stuff. Instead of copy and pasting in there, you can use those. But color coding this, yellow just means you haven't saved. Once you save, it turns green to let you know what you've done, what lines you've modified. Once you run it, close it, the green goes away, it goes back to normal in there. So it allows you to create those setups. The other side I want to show you real quick here is, if I go to open this, one thing you'll see, you'll notice in part modeling that you might right click on a face, you'll see an option here that says assign name. The reason you can assign a name now, so if I said, let's say back face, is you can apply names to faces and edges, so that way you can use that on your iLogic code. So that way you know you're constraining to the back face of the 3.ipt. We gave it a name called backface, so it knows exactly how to put a constraint on there. So applying that information allows iLogic to have a lot more power than it did in the past in there. So but those are a couple of quick topics in there on some of the new side of stuff inside of Inventor, and I'll pass it back over to Scott.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So Dan, just to review, Dan talked a little bit about the iLogic improvements. Several of our programmers internally are very excited about some of the improvements that Autodesk put into that. He also talked about the nesting utility. I just want to make you aware, I believe nesting utility is one of those that is only available in the collection, so it will not be available for the older product design suite. Okay, so let's see next. So next, Pete is going to discuss our factory products that are now inside of our product design and manufacturing collection. Pete will do a brief introduction of what factory looks like in there. And then he's going to focus a little bit, I believe, on the process analysis tools. And then he'll also be talking about the additional AutoCAD features that come available in our 2019 product. So with that, I'll let Pete introduce himself, and I'll go ahead and make him a presenter.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. I'm excited to take this opportunity to share the factory design utilities with you because it's something that not everybody's really familiar with. They're kind of an addition to the suite. And that's my primary responsibility at D3. So yeah, my name is Pete Straharski. I work out of our Minneapolis office, and I work a lot with customers using AutoCAD, Inventor, and then factory design utilities, which are really powerful tools that allow you to work in AutoCAD and kind of collaboratively in Inventor. So it's a really interesting set of workflows. And just like Scott mentioned with the nesting utilities, the factory design utilities are also exclusive to the collection. You just can't get them any other way. So let's start out by doing just a base introduction to the utilities themselves. I'll show you some process analysis tools that people are getting excited about, and then a couple things with AutoCAD that are new in 2019. So the first thing to note about the factory design utilities is they're not really a separate program. They're tools that have been built over the top of Autodesk's core design tools like AutoCAD and Inventor. So just for example, if I was to click along the top here, you can see I've got all my standard AutoCAD tools, drawing tools, annotate tools, etc. And the factory design utilities are just an additional set of tools that are utilized within AutoCAD. So everything that people are used to doing in AutoCAD, they can still do that. They just now have a more enhanced set of tools. So the other aspect with the factory design utilities that make them really powerful is that there's a large library of models that comes with the software and that you can extend either by downloading additional models or building your own. And these models are a little bit unique because they have a 2-dimensional version and a 3-dimensional version, which you'll see allows us to work between AutoCAD and Inventor. So these models called assets live in this library, and there's just a large list of the different models that you can utilize. Again, some come with the software, so just as a really quick overview, we have the system assets, and one of the classic examples that came out when the factory was first developed was the ability to add conveyor belts. And so if we look here at the belt conveyors, all of these just come with the software, different types, straight sections, curved sections, elevation changes, etc. But the tool set's continually growing. And so after I started using the factory design utilities in 2012, I noticed that the library grows. And so if I look at the chute conveyor, this didn't exist when I first started using them. And these little bubbles mean that you can grab them and you can download them from the internet. So it's really exciting because if the object that you have isn't there now, chances are it will be there within a year or two if it's a very common model. And so what people typically use this for, I'm going to kind of give you the base example, is they will use this to configure a space, typically a factory or some facility, but not necessarily just that, because what people are discovering, which I hope you'll see in just a minute, is that you can configure it for lots of other types of things as well. So if you look here in the system assets, there's also a retail category. So people figured out that this doesn't just work for my factory. I can use it to configure my store, my shop. I can also use it to configure products, which we have customers using, and I'll give you a brief example of that as well. And then besides the assets that come with the software you can download, you can of course build your own. And so these are just some of the models that I've built, and some of them I've built for customers that we have. So it's a large library. So the whole idea is to configure a space or a product. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab a couple of these models and I'm going to position them. And what's really nice about these tools is that it's just AutoCAD. So it's just like inserting a block. I come find where I want this model to be. I place it. I can redirect it using AutoCAD functionality, object snaps, polar tracking, all the things that people are probably used to. And there it is. And I just go ahead and place the models, position them as I need. And so in a matter of a few seconds, I can quickly build out a simple layout of these pieces of equipment. And the factory utilities are also super flexible in the way that you place them. So I can simply also like place a conveyor using some line work. So I just draw a couple of lines and now I've got a conveyor in place. So it really enhances the layout building process. And the really powerful part when constructing a layout is I can complete the 2D work and then I can move over to 3D. So I'm going to go ahead and show that. I just save my layout. I synchronize it to Inventor. And what it will do is it will trace out a layout in the Inventor software. Let's see if I can head over to Inventor so you can see it. So what it's doing is it's grabbing the layout data. It's going to trace in an overlay. And then using the asset technology, it realizes that there's a 3D model that can be built over the top. And so this is an excellent way to transition from traditional 2D layouts to 3D layouts when a customer requests it. But the factory design utilities are also a great way for users to transition into 3D, because sometimes a lot of the people I work with, at least, they're a little bit intimidated by 3D. And so the factory utilities allow us to build 3D models really easily without having to learn a lot of traditional things like constraining in Inventor. And so what we can do, there's a factory object that gets created on the 3D side, and as I place models, they just automatically snap to that 3D layout. And so I don't have to worry about, well, where am I in 3D space? I can stick it directly on the floor and it's there. And not only that, but it also makes other types of constraining much easier, because I have a really helpful tool as I bring in this little gantry attachment, these little connectors, it's these green globes, and as they get close to each other, there's a predictor, and then they basically snap build in place. So we have clients that are using this to build product, not necessarily just to create a layout, but they'll use these connectors to create the equipment that they're proposing to send to a customer. And then these assets are configurable as well. So these I built myself, and you can make changes to them. So for example, if I want one to be a manipulator, but one to be a welding attachment, I just make a change, and now we've got a welding attachment instead of just the manipulator claw. And the connectors not just allow us to snap build the models together quickly, but we can use those to make changes. So one of the enhancements to the factory utilities in 2019 is the ability to use iLogic forms, and Dan just reviewed iLogic in Inventor. So this is just extends that capability even more, because now when I change my width, not only does it change my base model, but it also passes the values via the connector to my gantry attachments. They adjust it in width as well. So it's a powerful set of tools to both make that design process more easy and efficient, but also to add some really powerful impact on being able to configure models on the fly. And just like we saw with AutoCAD, I made some changes, added some equipment. I can just round trip this back. So I'm going to go ahead and sync this back to AutoCAD. And that's what it's going to do, is it's going to trace out the new overlays, and then it will allow me to open this back up in AutoCAD. And here are the changes. So we can see our gantry attachments as well as the new equipment. So it really does offer nice capabilities of being able to work between the two. And so a lot of people who have to configure equipment love it. And like I said, some people who design products are also seeing some interesting possibilities. So another large aspect of facility layout is actually, well, is it going to work? And so the factory design utilities offer a couple different ways of analyzing your layouts to see if they're going to work efficiently, achieve the goals that you've set for yourself. So one of the tools that I'm going to show today is this tool called process analysis. And so what the process analysis allows me to do is to dynamically build out a process, set certain characteristics like how quickly do products flow, how many are flowing at a time, batches of 50. I can handle 2 batches at once. How much is it getting processed? 3 minutes to do the process, 1 minute for setup, and we can do one at a time where we're welding a couple pieces together as an output before we send it off to final assembly where there are some additional components. So you can actually run this and you can watch and see what happens. You can adjust the timing. And so as we see, it's building out the assembly. We can change this speed indicator a little bit, and we'll see it's doing assembly fine, but now our processor for doing the welding is slow. So somehow we've got to change up this process in order to make it more efficient. And I'll just kind of scoot up the timing a little bit, and we can see to make 100 takes a little over 11 hours. So we need to improve the process somehow. So it can be as simple as just grabbing an existing processor. We'll copy this over, set it up. Oh, there we go, drag it down. And now what we can do is we can map out existing processors. Whoops. to now utilize this new item. So I'm just going to take the time to set this up, 2 minutes. So again, it just takes a little bit of time to make the changes that you need. And then we can set this up to run as an additional assembly process. So again, just a couple of moments. You can see I'm able to make those changes. And now let's go ahead and reset it and see what happens when we add a second assembler station. So now we've started over. We're producing parts here. We're producing parts here. Oh, forgot one thing, but it still took a little bit of time off, 2 hours. And then what we can do is we can even make further process controls. And we can say, make sure we're evenly splitting up the outputs. So again, it allows you to tweak processes kind of on the fly, make sure we know how things are going to work. We run it this time, and now that processor is running full steam. Our assembler stations are running the whole time, and now we can complete that process in 7.5 hours. So we can save oodles of time, and it allows you to iterate through. So a lot of people use this as the basis for new layouts. So they'll actually tweak the process, and then they'll export that as an AutoCAD drawing. And so now we've got the opportunity to tweak the layout a little bit, save it, and then when we open this up, we can see the results of our process model, and then we can actually reposition equipment from there. Now that we know the equipment that we wish to use, we can choose to tweak it. So those are the factory design utilities. Super powerful tools available in the collection that give people the opportunity to go from design and then start to do some manufacturing analysis as well. So besides these really powerful tools that they're adding to the collection all the time and enhancing, they also are always improving the core tools as well. So I just want to share with you a couple of things with AutoCAD that I found to be particularly helpful with 2019. So let's say we're looking at our layout and somebody realizes, oh, we're going to need to make an addition. And so we can take an existing AutoCAD drawing, compare it with a copy that's been modified, and we'll let AutoCAD tell us what's different between the two, because frankly, we might not always catch it with our own eye. So they added the collaborative tools in the 2019, and they actually rolled this DWG compare tool directly into Core AutoCAD now. So if I click on DWG compare, I can grab a couple different drawings, the updated version and the standard version. It will show me the unique attributes of drawing 1 is green, the unique ones is drawing 2 is red, and we just straight up compare them. So I'm not going to get into all of the detail, but you can see here it does highlight what's different. Red is from the updated, green is the original, and then this gray color is what's the same. So it helps you understand what is different. And then it has different ways of kind of cycling through it and highlighting it. I'm just going to make one tweak. So instead of showing me the whole thing is different, it actually just highlights with a rev cloud the individual items that are different. So again, really helpful functionality, because frankly, when our clients make changes to our designs, it's not so easy to see them all the time. And then the last thing I want to share with you is the ability to use the web app for AutoCAD. So AutoCAD offers a mobile app, which is great when you're working in the field, and they've made it easier in 2019 to link up to that mobile interface. So I'm just going to take my drawing and save it up to mobile. And when I do that, I'm just going to save it in my demo folder, click save. It doesn't take terribly long to do. And then you could come over to your mobile app. This is just AutoCAD's web.autocad.com mobile app. Crack open your demo folder. Hey, look at that. There's my file. I'll load this up. And you're basically using AutoCAD through your web browser. So this is really great when you're trying to coordinate with somebody in the field. They're maybe on site and you're trying to share drawings with them. There's not really an FTP negotiation here. It's a secured Autodesk website. And now we're in AutoCAD. And it's just AutoCAD in the cloud. So if you're not familiar with this, you can kind of play with it. You have object snaps, just like you're used to in local AutoCAD. You can draw, you can add annotations. It's just that process of moving to the mobile app is a lot more streamlined in AutoCAD. So I hope that you found this useful, just kind of taking a look at some of the factory design utilities, a couple of the features in AutoCAD 2019 that I thought were particularly useful. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to you, Scott.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Pete. I appreciate your time on that. So just to replay what Pete had went through for us, he went through the introduction of our factory design utilities. You know, years back, we had product design suite and we had factory design suite, and individual companies would have to decide which product they wanted or which suite they thought they needed. What's great about the tools we have today is you don't have to make that decision. They are all in our product design manufacturing collection. And as Pete had explained to us, you know, not only are we adding tools to the collection, we are also seeing improvements in our core tools such as Inventor and AutoCAD, and we expect that we'll see that for times or for years coming. The process analysis tool that Pete had went through, that was one that really interests me. I know a lot of companies that are designing factories also want to see the efficiencies and be able to see what can happen, you know, or what if scenarios if we added another station here or there, what kind of throughput we could get. So I think that is an awesome feature that's been added, and I'm really excited to see what our customers can do with those. So next up, Ryan will be talking about Fusion 360, and also he's going to give just a little highlight on what has been added to our 3ds Max for the year. Fusion 360, if you don't know, that is the newer tool for Autodesk. It's the mechanical design tool that is cloud-based. Ryan has worked for at least the past year in Fusion 360 and definitely is one of our top techs on the Fusion 360 product. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Ryan.
Awesome.
I'll make you presenter.
Yep. Thanks, Scott. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
And you should have it now.
All right.
And we can see your screen.
All right. Fusion 360.
Yes.
Perfect. So thanks, Pete and Dan, so far. I'm pretty excited about all these changes. Definitely some awesome stuff in AutoCAD and Inventor that will save me oodles of time. I'm going to jump into, like Scott said, Fusion 360. And before I even get into what I was going to show you, I'm just going to pull over the archives of the Fusion 360 blog with the What's New category. So if you don't know, Fusion 360 is a little different from a lot of the other products in the collection, the manufacturing collection. Fusion 360 does not have an annual version. It's constantly updated throughout the year. So since January, we've had tons of updates inside of the Fusion 360 program. So just scrolling through some of them here, too fast for you to even read all of them. There's one update. We have additional updates. So really, we're not going to go through all the updates on Fusion, but what I wanted to focus on here was a really interesting thing that is newer in the collection. The collection's all about these workflows between products. So what if we're working in Fusion 360, or we have parts of our company working in Fusion 360, but others working in Inventor? So we're going to talk about a tool called the desktop connector. First of all, inside of Fusion 360, I'm just going to go to my, it's all cloud-based, so I'm going to go to this projects page and desktop connector. First of all, how to get it. So if you go to your Fusion team account and you just click on your profile, you'll actually see the desktop connector for Fusion available. And you just click here to install that desktop connector. So what does that do? This is really going to allow some pretty cool workflows between Fusion 360 and Inventor, and I'm going to go through a couple of those right now. So once you install the desktop connector, all that it does is it creates a drive on your computer for Fusion 360. So if I go there, I see every team hub that I'm associated with, our standard D3 hub and our training hub. And if I double click on that, I'll see an exact link synced to my computer's local workspace of every project that exists in my company's Team Hub. At least every project that I am invited to or involved with. So let me go back to my 2019 rollout project here. Pretty cool. That gives us direct access on our computer to any design. So what does this mean? When I create a design in Fusion, I save it. It's instantly available on my local computer. So let's take a look at this design specifically. We have the grinder vise right here. Nice Fusion 360 design. Let's say that I need to, for some reason, take this into Inventor. Maybe I decided that, I need to do some documentation on this thing that I can't really do in Fusion. It's got a lighter documentation environment. I'm going to hit open, and you'll notice within the file types available for Inventor, we have Fusion files, .fusion designs. Also, I've added some workgroup search paths in my project setup straight to that Fusion file. So I'm going to go to the 2019 rollout folder, and sure enough, I'll find that design right here, and we'll hit open. So with any CAD technology that Inventor has, you probably know that you can choose to reference designs that were not created into Inventor and maintain an associative link to them, whether it's a SolidWorks file, Pro-E, anything created outside of Inventor. Of course, this also works within Autodesk ecosystem. So I can either convert this Fusion model to an Inventor file, or I can just create a reference model from it. And that's what I'm going to do here. We'll create a reference model. And there's my design inside Fusion 360. If I expand this out, you'll see all the subcomponents listed. Another nice thing, if you've referenced something that is in that cloud workspace, you'll get an icon that it's a cloud file. Even if I create a brand new file, I go to save it, and I put it in the Fusion team. As soon as I save it there, it becomes a cloud file. So it's kind of nice. There's an indicator right there in the browser that things are being synced back and forth. Now that this is in Inventor, I could actually create a drawing from that design. And once this drawing is generated, I can use any tool that I want to document it. So you can ignore my errors there. And we'll just slap a couple of views on here. So if you're familiar with the Inventor drawing environment and it's quicker and easier for you to use this environment for your documentation, it is more powerful than Fusion's documentation at this point. Go for it. So for example, maybe I'm going to add some balloons here, and I'll pretend like people really use this auto balloon tool for a second. We're going to do parts only. Grab some balloons there. Also, maybe I'll add a couple dimensions for the thickness of this. We'll stop there. So it's pretty cool. Now that's not anything new so far. We could do that. We could always import a model and do some drawings of it. But the really powerful thing here is this is the desktop connector. It is connecting my Fusion design to my local desktop. Let's jump back to Fusion real quick. What if a Fusion design gets updated now? So I'm just going to use some standard Fusion tools here to thicken this, maybe 1/4 of an inch on each side. Some direct editing there, and we'll go ahead and save that. Just a nice simple save. And when we do that, we'll notice our version increments. We're going to be on a later version now. If I go back to Inventor and look at this original assembly design, I could actually check the reference for updates. And it says, hey, there are updates available. Do you want to update the file now? So we'll give that just a second to pull across. Pretty cool though. It's very powerful to be able to get those updates across even if you're not using the same program. So we could go the other way as well. If you have an Inventor design and you need to reference it into Fusion for some reason, it goes both ways. And now we see our drawing is going to update in dimensions and everything, even though this is not even an Inventor created or source design. So going the other way, you guys saw how if I create a file and I save it into that folder, it just becomes into that workspace now. And I'm going to go back online into that workspace. That file eventually would be synced up here. So we can pull Inventor files back into Fusion as well for additional design. So for time purposes, I'm not going to go into that, but just to give you an idea, we are going to pull open this reciprocating saw, which I have down here. And we've actually got all of the internals for this designed, all of the mechanical design done inside of Inventor. We could easily take that or shrink wrap of that assembly, pull it into Fusion 360, and use the powerful sculpting tools inside of Fusion 360 to build something like this that maybe you're not used to traditionally doing inside of Inventor. Also, CAM tools. A lot of people are pulling Inventor files into Fusion for the CAM tools, or the simulation tools, or the rendering tools, even sheet metal. There's so much you could do with these. So, pretty awesome that we have that desktop connector. Again, to get that, just to remind you, just go on your Fusion Team Hub. And we'll pull that down here to your username, and you'll find desktop connector right there. Okay, so I'm going to jump off the Fusion and Inventor side. Hopefully you guys will find that useful if you have any workflows between those two programs. The other thing we're going to talk about, of course, is 3ds Max. So a couple of recent changes in 3ds Max. Many people know that Autodesk is no longer bundling Mental Ray as a rendering solver with 3ds Max. So in the past, Mental Ray has traditionally just been bundled and available here automatically when you install 3ds Max as a renderer. You can still get Mental Ray from NVIDIA and use it, but Autodesk does not bundle it anymore. So why not? Autodesk actually has acquired another rendering technology, which I'm going to pull up right here. You guys may have seen some of the news on this. Solid Angle with the Arnold renderer joined Autodesk. So included inside of 3ds Max and Maya as well is the Arnold renderer automatically. Several benefits to that. The Arnold renderer, it's a much quicker render. It's more modern architecture. Also, the main benefit, I think it's Autodesk owned. They're not relying on a third party that they have to sync with, so they can update this and work with it as much as they want. Also, it handles fluid manipulation a lot better, which if any of you ever worked with particle systems in the past, it's been, there's some pretty cool stuff you could do with it, but the newer tools, which we're getting ready to look at, are a lot more streamlined. Also, this could be maintained by Autodesk, so it'll always be up to date. You won't have to worry about problems, when you come to a new version and something not being compatible or whatnot. Fluids is the other really cool thing. We've gone through a lot of material today, and I wanted to kind of end on this because it's just kind of fun to see. We have this tool called Max Liquid. And so what I've done is just created a few animations of some different types of liquid just falling down on this staircase. And this literally took me like maybe 10 minutes, 5 minutes to set up the first time and then to clone some additional liquids. So if I slide my, let's go here. Slide my time slider and my liquids are gone. Let's go ahead and open. If nothing else, then I will just create a new one real quick. This will show you how quick and easy it is. So I'm just going to go to the fluids category, create a max liquid, and we'll just grab this guy and move it up here. So this is pretty cool. I was very excited about seeing this. I'm going to go to the simulation view. So this is very easy to set up. We're just going to pick some colliders, things that this needs to collide with. We're going to pick the type of liquid. It's defaulted to beer. I'm good with that. Let's see what happens. And we'll hit solve. So you can see here, it's actually going to use a voxel-based system. So we're going to get these little voxel pieces according to whatever size we set up. Voxel being a volumetric pixel, and it's using this to calculate and simulate what happens to this liquid. Gravity is already set up in here. Oh, and I was off to the corner a little bit. But you'll see it start splashing away from there. So it calculates these much more quickly than in the past, and then when you're done, you have it cached into memory, so then you can animate your volume really quickly. So this is pretty cool. You can really spend a lot of time playing around with these, but if you have an application for liquids and rendering, 3ds Max is part of the collection now. So definitely take a look at this. All right, so I'm gonna stop here and hand it back over to Scott so he has time for some conclusion. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Ryan. So just to replay what Ryan had talked through, he worked through our Fusion 360 with the Inventor Connect, the desktop connector, and AutoCAD. Even in Inventor, the AutoCAD, very powerful tool if you're in a multidisciplined environment that's using SolidWorks or any of the other tools out there, being able to pull those into Inventor or Fusion and get live updates on anything that changes. That is an amazing technology. 3ds Max, I know definitely the Autodesk 3ds Max guys I talked to was very excited about the Arnold rendering. It sounds like it's going to be really something they can focus on and continue to improve over the next few years. With that being said, we're through everything with the what's new. I do want to point out that we did not have near enough time to go through everything. Even in Inventor, you know, such things as model-based definitions we didn't get a chance to talk about. But if you have any other questions on any of that, D3 is here for you on that. So let's jump right into our Evolve training plan. I want to talk about our Evolve a little bit for individuals that don't know it. And for people that do have the Evolve program, I just want to reiterate what we do have out there for us now. So the first thing that you get with our Evolve training program, it is a subscription-based training program that you basically buy for a year for your whole engineering department. With that, you get assessments that our assessments will can be used for either new hires or to assess the individuals that are currently inside your engineering department. Currently, we have assessments available for Inventor, AutoCAD, and soon to have AutoCAD electrical assessments. These assessments, after they are done, we can review with management or with the individual how they scored, and you can kind of see up here the scoring is based off of classes like INV 001, 101, 102, and it'll give you this is called a coaching report on how you ranked and how many questions you got correct in that set of exams. With that, we can help to figure out what classes it makes sense for you to start in at. We also have developed plans or tracks in our Evolve training. Such tracks like 3D design track for product design or machine design. With that, we have required courses and elective courses. After you take all the required courses and the minimum of the elective courses, you receive a certificate signed by the company president here that says that you completed what was needed for machine design track in 3D. We also have AutoCAD-based design tracks. We have a few of those put together now, and soon to have hopefully some AutoCAD electrical ones coming out. What we did figure out from talking to several engineering departments, what we have changed in our training program that makes a difference is short doses of training. Instead of setting in on training classes for 3 to 5 days, we do short doses of training. So what kind of classes can you expect in the Evolve training program? So for Inventor, you have 19 classes that include additive manufacturing, routed systems, even the simulation products. When you get into the AutoCAD, we have over 12 courses that advanced techniques, even plant. When you get into AutoCAD electrical, we have 8 courses that'll get you into things such as advanced symbol creation and PLC development. On top of this, that we don't show here, we have Nastran NCAD, we have Revit classes, and we even have 3ds Max classes. Currently today, we're in the middle of developing some classes that for our nesting and for some of the additional components we've seen in the product design and manufacturing collection. One of the reasons that Evolve is such a good purchase for your company is we will add the needed courses based on what becomes available in your product design and manufacturing collection. So you don't have to go back and try and get funding for classes. You have all the classes available all year long. Right now we have right at 50 classes available, and we expect that we'll be putting more on each quarter. So just to review, we know there's more than 17 products currently in product design manufacturing collection. We want to help, of course, our companies or our clients utilize those products more. Some of the products that you've seen today are only available through the product design and manufacturing collections, such items as nesting. Our D3 Evolve program is created as unlimited access to these classes, so being able to get the classes when you need them. And we also utilize CAD Live technology, which is the last thing we'll talk through here. CAD Live, what is that for you? You have the ability to take the training at your facility if you need. The requirements are you got to have dual screens. We need a webcam so that we can interact properly. We have to have either a speakerphone or a headset like we see here. And we want to test your internet, of course, because we're using virtual machines. With the product design, there's over 17 products. Some people may not have all those products installed on their system. So we use virtual training machines with all the products installed, so you don't have to worry about that. Also, it gives access for our instructors to be able to remote in and help you and be able to monitor your progress during any of the exercises. If setting at your own facility is not the method that you choose, you can also come into a facility such as what you see in the picture now. It can have an in-person instructor, or it could be a remote instructor. Either way, all of our classes currently are instructor-led classes. The image you see here is from our Springfield, Missouri office, and we had an instructor that was based out of Kansas City. You'll be able to see their screen. You'll be able to communicate back and forth freely. You'll notice that if you're in our facility, you won't need headsets because all of our training rooms are mic'd up and have speakers so that we can hear. With that being said, I want to thank all 3 of the techs, Dan, Pete, and Ryan, for giving me their time today to show some of the improvements that's made in our core products, along with what's available now in our product design manufacturing collection. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to your D3 solution executive or contact, or if you don't have a contact, please email us at info@teamd3.com. Our phone number, 877-731-7171, and of course our website at teamd3.com. I hope you got a lot of good information out of this webinar. We hope to see you on the next one. Thank you very much.